It's time.
I hadn't been winding it lately. I just let it run down. I haven't kept it up now. I'm going to try to wind it. Keep it wound again. If I can remember to wind it every several days. It only needs to be wound about once a week. So you'd think I could. Well, that's probably why I don't remember it.
Well, I assume so.
I don't know if I.
Miss Mary Ellen's in the room.
Yeah, and I don't have.
I don't
I'm
see
trying something.
nobody else yet.
I'm trying to do something different, and now I can't see. Now I don't know when people come in. So let
You
me check.
shouldn't do that, dude. Every time you try that,
Well, I know I shouldn't, but you know me.
so
I was
when did
trying to
they
do it
switch
better.
the StreamYard deal to work how it comes out now?
Which way
Good
is
morning,
this
Miss
side?
Carol. Huh?
You mean that
Well,
versus that?
when I log in, it's like a totally different screen.
Oh well, just recently they've changed. Hey, I think I'm live. I can't tell. Let me hang on a minute.
You are, I think. I can't tell either.
I was talking in my own ear there for a minute. Good morning, Carol, Mary Ellen.
They keep
Sorry it took me a minute
changing
there.
things on us old guys, and we don't like it.
Yeah, they've changed a whole bunch of
I
stuff, and
hate
some of it.
change.
They sent me a thing yesterday. I was working on this, and I got a thing from them that said, "Hey, take 30 seconds and fill out this survey of all these new things and what we can do better." And I looked down through there and I thought, "Well, hell, I don't even know if how most of that works yet." So I just ignored it. How are things in Oklahoma and Michigan? Hey, did you, Carol? Did you guys get snow last night? I, I saw people online last night talking about getting a foot of snow in parts of I don't know, that maybe New England, and I don't know how far across. And I haven't. I'm guilty. I haven't watched the weather in a couple of days. So, well, there's my wife. Good morning, Miss Brenda. Chilly in Oklahoma, but sunny. It's warm here, but cloudy. The It was 70 something degrees here yesterday and the day before. It's not. It ain't right. It's just not right. And I'll be the first to say that because I don't want it to get
The
hot. It's too.
70's okay.
Huh?
70's
Well,
okay
yeah, but not in February.
when it's two.
70 sounds good when it's
70
two.
sounds really good right now. I could go ride my horse.
Yeah, yeah, you could. Well, you could look at it different.
And
You
we
could.
did, and we had like 2 weeks in a row where we were getting up to 50,
That's nice.
and I rode the guts out of my horses then. But
Yeah, you. Went,
now it's cold and windy again. So
I know you went several times because you told me about it.
yeah,
And then I got my pocket watch wound up again.
you got too many clocks, dude. That what he
Well,
said, what the old Lakota said, that'll give you stomach cancer.
I'm sure it probably will.
One white
I,
man's time will give
I
you
just
stomach cancer.
I just wanted to. I got that one was running 4 minutes fast. I got it set now where it's pretty close. But this one, my favorite watch it's. I need to take it and get it adjusted a little bit. It's running fast, which you I always think it's going to run slow because it's a pocket watch, but it don't. It's picking up.
Was it one of them official like railroader pocket watches? So how's
Yeah.
it running fast or
Well,
slow?
it needs to be. It needs another adjustment. I had to have it fixed.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I remember.
and this one,
Come here, buddy.
I don't know. Actually, this is the.
Okay.
I ought to swap that. Which one's which? I got them mixed up now. I got two.
E- There ain't no reason in the world for a human being to own more than one clock.
Well, that's probably true, except these are so cool. I just
Yeah, but you got two pocket watches.
well, I don't carry them both.
You got granddad clocks hanging all over the room. You
Good
got
morning, Adventures by
your
D.
cellular device that tells you everything about yourself
Yeah, but I don't. I'd rather.
and everybody else.
Here's the problem with these: is they don't. Most of my pants don't have pockets for these anymore, which ought to be illegal. I'm trying to get them. I'm trying to.
You don't have a pocket watch pocket in your jeans?
Well, they do. This pair of pants. Well, I don't ever wear jeans hardly. I wear these other things. These Duluth work pants I wear just about all the time. They wear like iron. I can't. I've never worn a pair out. The only thing I've ever done, I've got one pair that's got a hole in the pocket, and I ripped it. They didn't wear out. I hooked it on something, and even then, I don't know how I tore it because this material is really tough. How's Dave this morning? Thank you, Miss Brenda.
And good morning, Miss Brenda. You said don't forget to punch, and Tim and I were just talking about hockey.
Yeah, and punching.
And punching,
And
specifically.
swatting each other with sticks. That's kind of a silly game when you think about it. You give great big men big sticks that they can whoop on one another with.
I think it's fantastic. It's the only sport that's still like, yeah, go out there and hurt that guy.
Well, there's one
not
more.
Not counting like the manly arts and the
Well,
womanly arts.
and the womanly. There is one hurling. Have you ever watched them hurl in like in Ireland where they still play hurling? And it's
hurling. You did
hurling.
You said curling because
hurling with an H.
I was going to reach through the screen and grab a hold of you.
No, it's
They're good at yelling.
I've never seen people beat each other up as bad as they do in hurling. But
nobody knows what that even is, Tim.
Well, the Irish do, by God, they play it.
Well, they're the only people on the planet.
Well, I think the Scots do too. But well, I can remember when I was much younger, man, and the wide world of sports would come on a Saturday or whatever. And one time, I remember they showed there's a big hurling match in Ireland. It's like once a year, and it's knockdown drag out between the best teams or whatever. And I remember watching that, and I remember people bleeding and getting hit on the head, and that was the last time they ever showed that on TV in this country, anyway. T-Town Mary Ellen says yeah, Mary Ellen, ask Freddie about that. Freddie's a Irishman. Ask him about hurling. I bet he knows what we're talking about.
It's like bag it away, or lacrosse, as people come to know it.
Yeah,
but it was invented by Native Americans to beat.
And they hit each other a lot too. I mean bag
it away means little brother to war, so it was training for warfare.
Yeah,
with sticks and clubs
But in hurling, they use a stick. It's about, I don't know, maybe 3 feet long, and that I remember. And it's been a while. And it's kind of like, the Irish are known for carrying a shillelagh anyway. And basically all a shillelagh is something to hit people with. I mean, it might be like a short cane, but it's really made to hit people. It's got a knot on one end, and I mean, it's made just for that. I watched the guy make
back to the Saturday morning cartoon thing when you said shillelagh.
Well, that's a real thing.
Well, I know it is. I probably have more than one in the house here.
Well, probably. The real ones, I think, are made out of what they call it, Blackthorn wood or something like that. But yeah, ask Freddie. I can't wait, Marion. I can't wait to hear what Freddie has to say about
Ask
that.
Freddie
I
if
really.
he's got a shillelagh.
Every good Irishman should have a shillelagh.
An Irishman that leaves Ireland has issued his own personal walk around shillelagh.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read something here.
We're going to talk about stuff.
Well, I had to look this up. Hurling,
Oh,
Hurling, is a 3,000-year-old traditional Irish fast-paced field game administered by the GAA, which I don't know what that means. Played by two teams of 15 using a stick and a ball. The object is to score points by driving the ball over the crossbar or goals, 3 points under it. I don't know what you get if you go over it. It is considered one of the world's fastest sports and is a key part of Irish heritage. And again, I'm sure it was a game that was designed to teach Irish warriors how to fight. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Next week I'll have to pull up a video. Here you go. Its roots date back 3,000 years, deeply tied to Irish mythology, and it's officially listed by UNESCO as an element of intangible cultural heritage.
but it has been banned in 99.9% of the countries in the world.
Maybe. You sure don't see it on TV here.
I have never even, well, I've heard of it, but only because I talked to you.
I've seen it played. It's rough. I mean, it is. It's rough. The image in my mind is of this one particular player, and I could tell you who they were or anything now. It's been so long ago. He's on his knees. He's been knocked to his knees, and he's bleeding across his forehead. And he's got that stick in one hand, and somebody else has got the ball now and going off the other way. But he's sitting there bleeding from his head, and it's just they just kind of act like that's normal. I mean, I don't even know if they call penalties for anything. I think they just play. Carol says she is looking forward to tomorrow's hockey final. Well, Carol, what do you think about the women's final?
As long as the Canada loses, it's going to be fantastic.
I didn't realize until last night that the United
Sorry,
States.
Mike and Diane.
Yeah, well, they've been carrying it. I mean, they've been winning forever, so that's just. It means it's technically their game, so I guess they should. But it's time we got one or two. I didn't realize though that the United States has only ever won that one gold medal, and that was the 1980 Miracle on Ice. I didn't know that was the only one we'd ever won.
And who did we play? Everybody
Russia.
gets it wrong. No.
Wasn't it Russia? Was it Canada? No.
Russia was the semifinals. The final was against Finland.
Finland, okay. I've forgotten that. But we beat Russia to get that position?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Well,
which was the stepping stone they didn't think the boys could.
Right. I can remember back when I remember hockey being in the Olympics, and the word always was that back then you couldn't beat the Russians because the Russians basically were a professional team and everybody else was using college kids.
They were all a bunch of NHL guys.
Yeah, well, or whatever amounted to the NHL back then, but yeah, and they were hard to beat. So I'm really happy that the women took home gold. I didn't get to see the game. Well, it was a good one, Carol. It was a tight one. I thought they weren't going to. After all the games and all the points and everything, how they dominated everybody for the week they played, I thought they were going to lose it. I thought that was it. They'd run plumb out of luck. It was over. But it was just a really good game right to the end. And
literally. I mean,
I mean, I almost felt a little bit bad for the Canadian women because they lost, but just a teeny, maybe that much.
I did.
But it was a good game. So we'll see. I think tomorrow will be a really good game. There's 2 or 3 people that I've heard rumors that they're not even sure if they're going to be able to play. One got hurt yesterday in the American game, and I see Crosby may not play for the Canadians. That would be kind of a big deal, even though he's an old man now by hockey standards. He's been playing for quite a while, but I think he's the captain of that team. So the some guy named Thompson, I don't even know who he plays for.
Thompson, he plays for Buffalo.
Is he from Buffalo? Okay.
Yeah, I heard yesterday. He scored yesterday, and I heard
he
Thompson
did.
scores, and I got a good buddy that his last name is Thompson, and he's a psycho Blackhawks fan.
Oh no,
I mean, he's psycho about hockey. So I called him and left him a message and said, Thompson scores.
He kind of got bushwhacked. I mean,
he got fouled back.
He got hit. Yes, he got fouled twice actually. Yeah, it was kind of like the play had moved on and the refs weren't down there or something. I don't know, but he got. Hopefully he's not hurt too bad. Good morning, Kay. I wasn't ignoring you. I just had my mouth full of talking. Mouth full of words. Couldn't get them all out.
Good morning, Miss Kay.
Oh. What else have I been doing that sounds like I ought to talk about it for a minute? Probably nothing. We got out and actually went somewhere this week. We had to go to Morristown. Brenda had a doctor's appointment. Not that that's exciting or anything, but we went somewhere. I talked to Kent. It won't matter to anybody but you. I talked to Kent Maiden yesterday for actually quite a while. We've been trying to holler at each other every couple of weeks or a month or so, and he's done pretty good. He's still in Indiana, so he's talked. I don't know if he's really thinking about it anymore, but not too long ago he was still thinking about coming back down here. But I don't know. I think his wife's.
Well, they still got working out there. They still got that place out there, farm or whatever they had out there.
Oh, his dad's
place.
I don't know, Mark. That's a good question. I'm not sure if one of them's still living out there or not. That place, golly, that his grandfather owned a lot of that land that was around them. And I know a lot of that got sold when his grandfather died. I don't know if that was if he sold it before he passed away or if it was, and a lot of that's been developed. That used to be you used to be able to walk out of their house and kind of like
and go to the woods
and walk for miles and go rabbit hunting or squirrel hunting or whatever. Just go shoot with our pistols till we, when the air smell like snakes kind of thing. We used to have so much fun out there on that property. And last time I looked at it, there's a golf course back there.
Oh gosh.
And we went down there with our pistols and they
Stop.
Okay.
Don't talk about housing developments and golf courses.
Well, I was going to make a joke about that. We went back there with our pistols and they wouldn't let us hunt no golf, so we just left. Oh, man. Let me see here what else I got. I'm going to.
I know that people like to do it. My oldest son-in-law both his son-in-laws are golfers.
One of your son-in-laws is like a pro at the golf course, isn't he?
Well, he was the coach of the.
Coach. He was a coach. Okay.
But and the other one was on the high school team back when he was in school, and But I'm like George Carlin. Like you hit the ball, you go out there and you find it, you stick it in your pocket, and you go home because you won.
You stick it in your pocket and go home.
You won the game.
You won. That's a good analogy. I kind of like that. George Carlin, bless his heart.
Makes good cottontail hunting habitat though.
Yes, it does. And unless you live in Florida, and then it makes good gator habitat. Apparently, that's become a thing down there. Gators on golf courses.
Well, I saw a deal where guys were like, it might have been a micro dirty jobs deal where a guy had formed a company to retrieve golf balls from those ponds
Oh, that's a big thing.
and
Uh,
making lots of money. Like he was making like millions of dollars doing that and like diving with gators. And they were constantly dealing with big gators, not just like an 8 footer, but like, you know, 14 footers, big
here's a
man
here's a
eaters.
funny thing about the what's the right word the reestablishment of the alligator in its territory in the United States is that now that it's now that that's happened, they were protected long enough that some of them started getting real big, and some of them are still really big. And yeah, I'd like the retrieving the golf balls in the pond thing. I've known people that did that around here. It's a lot safer around here though than it is in Florida. I'll tell you right now. It's I don't know if
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do it in Florida unless somebody was watching my back. I think
constantly.
constantly. It's kind of like that scene from Atari where that guy's standing in the jeep, shoots that crocodile. It was about to bite his other buddy, who happened to be Mister
Harvey
Kruger.
Kruger. Harvey Kruger. Okay, going down a rabbit hole or a
Yeah,
squirrel
let's get
up,
out of
up in the squirrel nest.
that. Let's get out of that nest and move on. We're going to talk about something kind of fun today. Fun today. And it's not really going to be, it's going to be about hunting, but it's not really going to be about hunting. It's kind of going to be about why they went. Well, one of the reasons they went and what they did with all the stuff that they brought back. Hey, good morning, Dave's Disney Dreams. Well, now the donut guy hasn't shown up yet, Dave. And so I'm afraid to tell you that today my guess is he's run off with the donuts and ain't coming in. That's just my guess. The I walked by. Dave was doing a
Well,
little.
they might be in a state of mourning.
That's possible. That is possible. Donuts are a reassuring and comforting thing to have when you lose a hockey game. I mean, that's why Tim Horton sponsors so many hockey arenas and stuff. I went by Dave Disney Dreams. Dave was doing a little live stream last night, and I just happened to see it, and I stopped in to say hi. And we were talking about that, and he was telling people that we have donuts in here, and I said, yeah, when they make it in. Yeah, we were just joking about the donut thing. So darn, he said, no donuts. Well, sorry, Dave. Maybe I'm just going to have to start bringing them in myself. I guess that's my problem is there's no donut shops around here. Good thing got my chocolate host. He brought his own donuts, so he's okay. Oh, me.
I don't even know if we can get those anymore.
What, Hostess donuts?
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh,
They used to make it. Oh Lord! Of course, they made white powder donuts, and when I was younger, thought those were a great snack food, as good as Little Debbie survival cake. But then one day I got sick after eating them, and I couldn't eat them. I went 10 years without being able to even look at one of them in the face.
there's Miss Tina.
Hey, good morning, Tina.
We done been bad this morning. You didn't
Yeah,
get it.
we chased
You
squirrels.
didn't get it. You didn't get in to monitor us early enough.
Yeah, you didn't get to count those, and we didn't count them either. So,
Oh
did
my!
you get snow last night, Tina, or in the last day or two? I'm asking because yesterday I heard people talking about getting lots of snow, and several people on one of the shows last night that I think it might have been Resort TV one show. I stopped in for a few minutes there, and people were talking about asking each other how much snow they were supposed to get. So I just threw it out there. I said, "Where do you guys live that you're supposed to be getting snow?" And I think one of them said Massachusetts. So I'm assuming New England was getting it. I didn't know if New York did or not. You still am getting it. How much are you supposed to get, Tina? Because they were saying 10 inches to a foot and more. Or somebody did. I don't know. But I hadn't looked at the weather this week because I didn't think there was anything going on. Carol, did you count any squirrels? Carol, come on now. Whose side are you on? Tina's trying to get Carol to tell her what kind of squirrels we chased. Oh, let me see here. I'm going to start this off because I know the third slide is going to cause another break in service. So we're going to talk about Theodore Roosevelt again a little bit and his son Kermit. As I put on my thumbnail, they went a camping in Africa, sort of. But it's really about all the other stuff that went on and why they were one of the reasons they were there. And it's actually a pretty big reason, in all honesty. But Theodore Roosevelt, being Theodore Roosevelt, he was a hunter, so he did take advantage of that. I'm not sure if there was any non-squirrel content. No, any non-squirrel content. Thanks, Carol. Your help. That's a big help. I don't know if that's the right answer. So we're going to talk about some of that, and there were some interesting and amazing people that went along on that trip. A couple of them anyway that I find fascinating, and but what they brought home and for the museum, Smithsonian Museum, is amazing. So anyway, let's move past that. Hit the like button, please. What now?
Dave said he saw a squirrel outside his window. Does that count?
And you didn't bring it up in time, Dave. But we can count it. Oh, since Tina says since we hadn't started officially yet, we're okay. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment. And then remember about shooting rabbits. Practice, practice, practice. So we're going to talk about this gentleman. We lost what I considered a great actor this week, last Sunday actually, and first time we've been on since he passed. And that was Robert Duvall. And I tried to run a sort of a gamut of some of the more iconic characters he played in his life. And oops, damn it, keep your finger off that trigger. I didn't know a lot of his background history, but he actually, after he was in the army, which he did a 2-year stint right at the end of the Korean War, is much to his father's chagrin, because his father was like a rear admiral in the Navy, and much wanted him to go to the Navy, but I guess he just wasn't going to go to the Navy, so he did to the Army. And when he got out, he went to acting school and started acting in, I guess, theaters and stuff in New York and a bunch of places like that, up in that area. But his first movie role was Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird. And he played I don't know how they described him in that movie. That was done so long ago. He wasn't all here, and they were trying to accuse him of something he didn't do, or some people were, because everybody was afraid of him except for Scout, which was Oh, what Walter Pigeon's not when it's Walter Pigeon that played the main character. I can't remember his name. Um, that was his daughter, if I'm not mistaken, and she was friends with Boo. Anyway, that was his first real. That was his first movie role, and it was kind of interesting because that kind of set him off down that path. And then of course, three of the characters on the page are Western characters that I just love to watch him play. And the top one is Lucky Ned Pepper from True Grit.
Oh, you
Who,
fill your hand.
you sons of bitches. And but John
I
Wayne put,
wasn't going to complete the statement. You
well,
just you just took us right over the cliff.
I did. Well, beep, beep, beep. And then of course Gus McCrae, who Mark's wearing his hat, and from Lonesome Dove, which was I don't know if it was his first TV role, but it was probably maybe his biggest TV role actually. Um, and then the one on the lower right, excuse me, is from
Busted trail.
no, the other one, Open Range.
Oh, yeah.
Broken Trail was another one that he did, and I didn't see a picture that I could identify as that, or I probably would have put that in there.
He looked pretty much like that in that one. Might have had
Yes,
some
well,
ink.
he was about the same age when he did both of those, I think. And the one above and the one above it was famous line, and that was from Apocalypse Now, and he said, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Smells like victory.
Smells like victory." They come riding in on those Hueys and start
Charlie
playing.
don't surf.
Yeah, that was part of that too. They started playing the what's it called, the Flight of the Valkyries as they come charging in. And then the top picture may not be somebody you've ever seen or heard of, but that was his last movie, and it was called The Pale Blue Eye. I had never heard of it. Now I'm looking for it. The Pale Blue Eye apparently was a movie, sort of a fictional detective sort of thing that happened in the early 1800s, and Christian Bale plays the main part, but it's all about a series of deaths at West Point. Mysterious cadets were dying or getting killed off, and they couldn't figure out exactly what was going on. So they hired this guy, Christian Bale, to come in and try to figure it out. And I hadn't figured this out yet. I was trying to figure out the characters last night because I didn't get to see the movie. And he recruited a young Edgar Allan Poe to assist him. Now, I read one thing that made me think Edgar Allan Poe was supposed to be a cadet, and I don't know if he ever was. The other thing I read, it was like, no, he just came up there to help him. But Robert Duvall played an old man by the name of what's his name? Pepe. I wrote it down here somewhere. Maybe I didn't. But he wrote it. Maybe I did. Where's that at? Where's my cursor? Oh, I hit that button. Sorry. That's why it wouldn't work. Jean Pepe. I'm not sure. And he was like an eccentric old man, beard, in his own library, who they went to because he had all these books about. It kind of reminded me of sort of the plot of the Da Vinci Code, where they bring in Dan Brown to interpret those symbols and the writing, that was mysteriously wrote on stuff. The signs that were trying to protect all the Holy Grail. This guy's kind of like that, I think. And so he didn't play a huge role in that movie, but he does play an important part. I'm looking for that. It was on Netflix. So if you got Netflix, if you're interested and you hadn't seen it already, has anybody seen that? The Pale Blue Eye? It was, I think they filmed it in 2022. And that was, like I said, that was his last movie. That last anything he did that I'm aware of, other than maybe some interviews or something. Um, the article I read said one of his greatest achievements was his characterization of the grizzled old Texas Ranger Gus McCrae in the TV miniseries Lonesome Dove, and he received an Emmy nomination for that. Said while he never lived in Texas after this movie, he was embraced as a culture icon there. Another memorable character, of course, was Boss Spearman in Open Range. I thought his part in Open Range was really good. Boss Spearman. And who was in that? Kevin Costner was in that with him. Actually, I thought that was a good Kevin Costner role too. I don't always like his characters, but I did like that one. Well, I mean, a lot of his stuff I do like, but a few of them I don't. Let's see. He spoke a lot. He did an. Oh, I know the other thing I was going to tell about. That's if I wrote notes on that. He did a movie here. Well, actually not here, but around west of Knoxville in that area, about an old man who was really eccentric.
No, I've seen that. I can't think
Uh,
of the name of it. He lived up in the mountains.
yes, and he threw a party for his own funeral.
Yeah,
He wanted. He decided that it wasn't. Well, I thought well if you died and had a funeral, you didn't know what happened. So he
I
decided he'd
think
have
it
a
was a
funeral
true
first.
story too.
It is a true story. And I knew people. I worked with people that used to knew who he was, or knew the legend of him or whatever. But yeah, he was. What was his name? What was the name of that movie?
And yes, by the way, Edgar Allan Poe did go to West Point.
Did he? Okay, I
He
didn't
was an
know.
enlisted guy,
Okay, well
and he
then that
had
part
and
was
he
true.
and he
Then.
had to pay a guy to finish his enlistment so that he could go to the academy,
Oh, really?
which was interesting. I mean, there was all kind of law about that, you know.
Right.
We were still doing things like overseas folks then.
Oh, I didn't even think about. Oh, he was Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. That was his name. Well, I wrote that down. So just to they said he was he starred in 145 movies in his career, starting with Boo Radley and ending up with The Pale Blue Eye. Oops. He was on stage though. He did a lot of stuff on stage before he went to Hollywood. He directed 5 films and produced 14. And I put down here that Lonesome Dove, Open Range, and Broken Trail are just 3 of my favorite TV movies, or TV roles rather. What is the name of that other movie? It's just a real short. It's 2 words. The name of that movie is 2 words. It's like Get Low or something like that. That was the guy's name. I think Get Low, Lo. And he threw a party. He went to a funeral home and said, "I want to throw a party. I want that for my funeral." And they were real serious and said, "Well, we can do that for you, sir, and we'll do all this and lay you out in your body." He said, "No, you don't understand. I want to do it before I die. I don't want to be dead. I want to do it while I'm alive." They said, "Well, you can't do that." He said, "Well, yes, we can." And he did. Real thing. And it happened here local. Well, not, well, a little bit west of here. True story. One of the guys I worked with, you've heard me mention Wes James before. He knew all about the guy, and he was from that area growing. He grew up in that area, and I don't know when the guy died. When he did pass away, it's probably before Wes was around, but Wes knew about him. So anyway, rest in peace, Robert Duvall. We'll miss you. What they used to say, your like will probably never pass this way again. Maybe, I don't know. He was pretty special as an actor. I don't think I ever saw him in any movie that I didn't really like him. So, what we're going to talk about today is the Smithsonian, what they call the Smithsonian Roosevelt African Expedition of 1909 and 1910. And Theodore Roosevelt was president. His term as president ended in 1909. And when he finished, he decided, which he did this on several different occasions, did stuff like this. He decided he was going to go on a trip, a big trip, safari or exploration trip. And he did stuff like that in the American West, but we talked about before, he did it in South America one time, about killed himself. Damn near didn't make it back from that one. That the trip to Africa was for two reasons. One, for him to get away and to do something I guess he wanted to do. And second was to actually go and take some naturalist and scientist types and go over there and collect specimens for the Smithsonian Institution, or the Natural History Museum, which back then it was just they just called it the Natural History Museum, and now it's called the National Museum of Natural History. I get that straight. In the course of almost a year, a little over a year, I can't remember exactly how many months, they collected over 11,400 specimens of various kinds. And it took the Smithsonian naturalists and people that did this kind of work over 8 years to catalog all the stuff they brought back. 8 years. That's a lot of stuff. Some of the most important people that went, for example, were Theodore Roosevelt and his son Kermit, who, of course, I famously have this autographed book of, and got to throw in a little plug when I can. And a gentleman by the name of R.J. Cunningham, who was the experienced hunter tracker, and in the end, he led the group. I'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute. I'm going to say this wrong again, Mark.
Salute. It's Salute.
Not Salute. Salute. I always want to say Salute.
It's not Salus, it's Salute.
No. Well, for years I thought
it's actually Salute.
Well, anyway, Frederick Salute, who was not officially on the trip, but he was there a few times and they were friends. And he actually
bumped into him out there.
He bumped into him on the ship over, on the cruise over. But he knew him somehow, because they already were buddies
before the deal.
And but Salute talked.
Can you imagine having a life where you're like, I'm going to Africa? They're on the same ship, and he's like, "Well, I'll just go with you."
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? He played an important role though in this trip, because TR wanted to be in charge of everything. He wanted to organize
a DIY Africa trip.
Yeah, but Salute said, "Nah, you need to get a guy that's over here and knows what he's doing, and then you can just go have a good time." That's kind of what it amounted to. So he did, and that's where R.J. Cunningham comes into play. And then from the United States and the Smithsonian, he took a guy named Edgar Alexander Mearns and another guy by the name of Edmund Heller and John Alden Loring, and each one of those guys were at that time famous naturalists, scientists that were doing work for the Smithsonian. Pretty much one of them was a bird guy, and one of them was a mammal guy, and the other one I think was maybe everything else in between.
Yeah, Mearns is the father of the AOU, the American Ornithological Union.
Oh, that's right. Did I say birds? Maybe I didn't, but
I did say birds,
right? And I think Heller
named after him.
And Heller was a mammals guy, if I'm not mistaken. And literally all those guys have something named after them, I'm pretty sure. So I've got a little bit about those guys. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to break them down a little bit more. So I thought I'd just do this properly and actually define the word safari according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it is the caravan and the equipment of a hunting expedition, particularly in Eastern Africa, which is kind of where this whole idea got started. Um, the first official professional safari company was actually started by that. And I just realized I left the guy's name off that list, Tarleton, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit too. He was second in command and maybe the best rifle shot of the whole bunch that went. Uh, so in Roosevelt's book, the game African Game Trails, uh, Roosevelt talked about getting off the ship. He told the whole thing about getting ready and then the journey over, and then getting on a train and riding down part way till they got to the location. He said he stepped off the train, and there were all these tents arranged kind of like a military camp. And his was like the first big tent in the front, and they put an American flag over it for him, which made him real happy, of course. But then behind that was a big skin. Yes, sir. Yeah.
No, I don't have a question. I was waving at John.
Oh, hey, John. Good morning, buddy.
What's transcontinental?
Oh, now hang on. Let's take a moment. John, you're in the snowstorm area, are you not? Tell us what's going on with you and weather, just because I've asked, and I don't think anybody else here is really. Oh, no, Tina's getting snow, but I heard that New Jersey was supposed to get hammered too. A 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, 12 to 20 inches of snow, coastal flooding. Wow. So this is a nor'easter coming in off the coast for you guys. I should have looked up. I should have got on Ryan Hall's show and looked at the weather, and I haven't done that. Yeah. John, last night somebody, I think it was on Resort TV 1, was talking about the snow, and I didn't know anybody was supposed to get snow, and they were in Massachusetts. And I think they were saying they were supposed to get 12 inches plus. And I heard that Maryland and New Jersey and that area was supposed to get, a big hit off of it, but I didn't know how much. And John says that the food stores are out the door. Well, tell me something, John. There's a phenomena in this part of the world that anytime anybody says snow, all the stores immediately run out of bread and milk. Does that happen in New Jersey? I'm always supposed to be informed of the weather, no matter where. That's right, smarty pants. I'm supposed to know. I got to know. I have to know because my friends and following are all over the country, and even in foreign countries around the globe. What did Edgar? Who used to say that? Hello to all the countries. Somebody used to say that was their sign on or sign off when they were on the radio. Bread, milk, and eggs all gone, wiped out.
Toilet paper.
Almost called you something. Well, maybe, but not anything real bad. We'll just stick with smarty pants. I started. She excused me saying wanting to call her something bad. Whew, man, did I tell you about her accident? She had a little accident last week, and I noticed last night on her leg. I'd looked at her leg and I knew it was bruised, but last night it is the most amazing colors of purple and lavender, and it's a little scary how big it got. Milk, bread, and toilet paper around here, Brenda says. Anyway, so back to the show. So anyway, the map on the center of the page, that you can see that red circle, and I hope you can. That's the general area of what was then known as where the part of the country where British East Africa was, and German East Africa, and I'm not sure there was another piece up there that somebody else was. I don't think it was Italy then, but that they were kind of
La France.
the what La France
Mm-hmm.
could have been, yeah. That was they were colonies basically.
They
They
were
were
big in the Sudan.
yeah. Well, that may be then. But anyway, that's and then the map on the right is the if you can see again, I don't know how well it shows up, but you can see that red line, and that's basically the path that they took to get from point A to point B, from where they got off the train to where they got back on the ship and headed back to the home in the Smithsonian. But they for this particular trip, like I said, they had a dining tent. And he was talking about how things were arranged. It sounds like a military camp to me. His tent was out front, big tent. Then they had a dining tent, and they had a scanning tent, which was really important for this trip. Um, and then they had over 200 porters, and I've read over 250 porters, which were all the men who were going to be carrying all their stuff, basically. And apparently, up until I don't know what point in time in the 20th century, if you did a safari, you still used porters. You didn't load things on wagons, even though they did have some wagons, but it was mostly to carry the hides and the collected items. The porters basically carried camp from to and fro, and all the food and all that. They paid the porters. They gave them like a suit of clothes, sort of, and fed them. That was one of the reasons why that they did a lot of hunting, was to feed the locals. And most of the porters were Swahili and I don't remember if he named some others, but he said coastal natives and the people from that general region. Then they had gun bearers, which is what that is. They were actually carrying the guns for the hunters, took care of them and that sort of thing. They had what they call the tent boys, which I think were like valets. And then the Askari, which were native soldiers who had uniforms and guns, and they were there basically to police the area and to keep things, and just in case one tribal group decided they didn't like how the other tribal group was carrying their baggage, that they were to keep all that, squelch all that, and to go patrol camp at night and stuff in case they had lion issues. And back then, lions were an issue. They had what they called horse boys, or I'm going to say this wrong, says is the only way I can find to pronounce it. And that's apparently a French term also. Basically, what it means is grooms, and the men who handle the horses, which they definitely had horses. They rode horses a lot on this trip. And they walked a lot. And like I said, another thing I read said there may have been another 250 plus local guides and hunters and politicians and people who just sort of hangers on that went along at different points in the trip. And they lived in tents. The safari would move from one location to another, set up the camp, but they'd stay there for a week or 10 days or 3 days, and just depends. And then they'd pick up camp and move it again. The whole thing, all this stuff went. And I was going to say something important about that.
Wonder how many Secret Service guys he had with him.
They didn't talk about that,
if any.
And that's my guess.
I bet he figured they were well armed.
Well, I know he had Secret Service people at different times, but he never mentioned, well, yeah, they were well armed. Plus, they had the tent, not the tent guys. They had the Askaris, which were the local soldiers to guard camp. And I did get everything I've read about this trip, the book I'm reading and the stuff from the Smithsonian. He got a lot of attention, of course, because of who he was. And I think that the locals where it says they had another 250 local guides and hunters and such. I have a feeling that some of those guys were probably there to keep an eye on him, and whether he liked them or not, I'm guessing. And so they can't. I was going to say they camped, but they also stayed with, I guess, what I'd call settlers. People who had farms. They didn't call them plantations in this area, but a lot of them had really huge tracts of land that they were farming and raising cattle on, and other kinds of livestock, and raising all kinds of fruits and vegetables and such as that. And some of these farms were really large, and he stayed with a lot of those people. And I didn't make a list of their names, but there were quite a few of them, and some of them had some really nice digs. That's usually the kind of place where Salou and those people would show up and hang out and sit on the front porch and do the things they did and smoke cigars and talk about stuff. I don't know if TR smoked cigars, but so they left out of New York City on March 23rd, 1909, right after his presidency ended on March 4th of that year. He was on the ship Hamburg, arrived at its destination at Naples, and the party boarded the Admiral, a German flagged ship. Interesting considering what year this was. Things weren't that heated yet, but they were getting very heated in Europe. And there was a lot of World War I action in this same area where they were at, and not from between 1914 and 1918. That's where he on board the Hamburg is where he encountered Frederick Courtney Salou, and who he referred to as a longtime friend, who was he was going on an African safari, which I thought was interesting because he was there a lot. I mean, he lived there. And he was going through a lot of the same areas, so that's the other reason why they were able to meet and hook up, and they hunted together some, but they weren't together all the time. And then they traveled by train and steamboat, and sometimes horse and camel until they landed at the site where the safari began. This trip was sponsored by the Smithsonian, but it was funded, or at least partially funded, by Andrew Carnegie, or Carnegie, I guess, depending on who you are and where you live. I always knew it was Carnegie, but I've heard it pronounced Carnegie a lot. And let me see. By his own proposed writings, Roosevelt's party hunted for specimens for the Smithsonian Institution, the American Museum of Natural History in New York, and the San Francisco Museum. I left that one out. I didn't remember that one. And he returned to the United States in June 1910. So he was gone. What does that make him? 15 months, more or less. Oh, I lost Mark, or he stepped off camera. Something must be going on. So let's meet some of the people that went along. This gentleman was really key to the whole trip. He was the gentleman, his name's R.J. Cunningham. And the photo of him in the upper left, was taken by Kermit Roosevelt, who took a lot of pictures. A lot of the pictures that are in the book African Game Trails were taken by Kermit. And Kermit did some other stuff with his photographs around the country. And you can find some of these photos done by Kermit. He took a lot of pictures of the animals, both alive and dead. But that was one of his favorite parts of the trip. R.J. Cunningham had lived in and worked around British East Africa for quite a long time, and was regarded as one of the best guides and hunters and whatnot that was available in that part of the country. So Salou actually talked Teddy Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, into hiring Cunningham to be the main guy to organize the safari, because Cunningham knew how to work with the locals. He knew how to work with the porters. He knew how to organize all that stuff, because that's is what he was already doing down there, is setting up safaris. And if I remember correctly, I think that he was involved in what they consider the very first professional safari that was led in Africa. He was part of that. This was years before this trip, but it was also hard to find a lot of information about him. How close am I? 1 minute off. The two pictures I found on the right, I dug and dug and dug and dug, and I finally found them, and I'm pretty sure they're correct. Obviously, the one in the middle doesn't look much like the one on the left or the right, but that's him. But that's about it. I couldn't find a whole lot more other than just random stories. But I know in his book, Roosevelt talks about Cunningham being one of the main guys, always out there with them when they were hunting, especially the dangerous game. If they were out there just hunting gazelle or antelope for specimens, or to feed the army they had with them. And they had so many, that was a big part of hunting, was feeding everybody. But Cunningham was a big part of that. And he also took part in some of the taxidermy work, or at least the scanning and preparation of the hides and whatnot, if the skinners and the people, naturalists, got too busy. So he was born in 1871 and he passed away in 1925. He was technically Scottish, but he spent a great deal of his time in South Africa, or East South Africa. He was supposed to be very familiar with the Kalahari Desert. Because of his previous experience in South Africa and all that area, he soon won fame as a big game hunter. He was employed at first by Mr. Newland, Tarleton and Company. That's important because Tarleton is also on this trip. They hired him. Cunningham hired Tarleton to go with him, kind of as his co-leader, to help, because Newland, a guy named Newland, I'm not really going to talk about him much because he wasn't on this trip, but Tarleton and his family, along with a gentleman named Newland, started what they consider the first professional safari guide company in Africa. So they were very familiar with this kind of operation. Of course, this was the realm of the people that had a lot of money and could do things like this. It wasn't just something for the faint of heart. Let's see. I don't know if he was ever married. He had no children. There's a few articles. He did do some writing and stuff like that, but again, I couldn't find a lot about it. He served during the First World War as an Army ambulance unit in 1915. He was also in intelligence in Africa. He did a lot of stuff like that. These hunters that were in that part of the world during World War I got really heavily involved with the military on all sides, and acted as guides and spies and ne'er-do-wells of all sorts. He was also considered an expert photographer. Again, I found no pictures that he did. But he also collected animals and birds and fish for museums before they ever got there. So he was familiar with this kind of an expedition. So that's that guy. And this is, I found these pictures, but then I found this one. And this is actually more contemporary painting. I didn't realize that when I first found this, who this guy was. John Siri Lester was an artist and painter who'd been doing this kind of stuff for a long time and specialized in Theodore Roosevelt things and paintings. And this one is called The Nooner. And it's Teddy Roosevelt and R.J. Cunningham taking a break under an acacia tree looking out over the plains. If you look in the background, you can see zebras and eland and antelopes or buffalo, all kinds of critters back there. And Roosevelt talks about this because it would get really hot in certain parts of Africa in the middle of the day, as you can imagine. So they would find a shady spot sometimes and that's where they'd have lunch or take a break. And that's supposed to be R.J. Cunningham laying there beside Theodore Roosevelt, and they're planning out which way they're going to go, if they're going to go hunting or if they're just looking around or whatever they're doing. And this painting, I guess more or less, is based off this quote by Teddy Roosevelt that's in his book. It says, "The huge thorn tree, which stood by itself lonely and beautiful, offered a shelter from the blazing sun. The game was grazing on every side, and I just kept thinking of all the life of the wilderness and of its many tragedies, which the great tree must have witnessed during the centuries since it was a seedling." I don't know how old the tree actually was. I don't know how old those trees get, but it could have been that old, I guess. And that was a blurb from Roosevelt's personal journal. And I'm guessing since Serial Esther wasn't actually there, I'm guessing he took that and then interpreted this picture, which I think is a really nice painting, actually. Let me just a second here to refresh my liquid. And check the chat. John looks like a young John Carradine. That's interesting. Yeah, you're kind of right. Hadn't thought of that. I'm getting some coffee here and taking a quick break to check. Oh, hey, Dave. I'll say this wrong, but is it Stragand? It's popped by the show. I don't know if I missed anybody else. I apologize. Feel free to jump back in there and say hi, and I'll know where you're at. Looks like since the milk, bread, and toilet paper thing, I hadn't missed much. Brenda says, "Okay, on a ship. I guess you want to know how you got there. Okay. How did they travel to Africa? Board ship. That's pretty much the only way you could go back then if it was across the ocean. There wasn't any airplanes to fly on yet." So anyway, that's was R.J. Cunningham, but he was a very important person on this trip because it was him that had to help collect the animals and skin them and work with the naturalists to prepare them all to go back to the museums. And as I stated a minute ago, they were doing several museums actually, but most of this was going to the Smithsonian, and is in fact a lot of it is still on display there. So if you go in there today, and you might see a lion or a zebra or an elephant even, or a rhinoceros, it may be one of the ones that Theodore Roosevelt or Kermit brought back with him from Africa. So I just mentioned another guy, Leslie Tarleton, who was also with the expedition, and Cunningham had asked him to go along as his co-leader, and he was originally from Australia, and he was one of the reasons Roosevelt talks about him several times in his book, because he was probably the best shot with a gun rifle that any of them had. And on a couple of occasions, that became very important. This was in a time when, lions were pretty plentiful and didn't always hesitate to, attack if you got too close, even accidentally. And rhinoceros, this is rhinoceros. Yeah, now I won't be able to say it correctly. Rhinoceros are kind of a strange animal anyway, and if you startled them or if you walked up on them, they were prone to just turn and charge. So sometimes having a good guy with a rifle was kind of handy, and Tarleton was that guy. Again, several places I read that most the Kermit, I think, and Roosevelt talked about the fact that they were really glad he was there. A couple of times it got kind of hairy. So his family, his father and mother had moved around. They were from Australia, but he had a brother who had TB, tuberculosis at the time. So they'd moved to Tasmania to try to help him. The climate change that wasn't working, so they ended up moving to Africa and to help out. And unfortunately, he didn't live much past the time they got there. But the Tarleton stayed, and that's when they joined with the Victor Newland and created the first professional outfitter, and they called it Newland, Tarleton and Company. And he was a guy I hadn't read much about yet, but apparently was pretty famous when it comes to this kind of stuff. Do you know about him?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know much about Leslie Tarleton. Go ahead.
I was.
Oh, okay. I thought I interrupted. Kermit talks about him. A lot of times he and Kermit would go off, and Tarleton would go with him, and they'd go hunting together. They'd just be off, not with the main crowd. But he was also with Theodore a lot too. But Kermit said that Cunningham was the best shot, was a better shot. I think his quote was something like, "He's a better shot than my father," but Tarleton was the best shot of all of them. And again, when you're on this kind of a trip, that's kind of important. And that is a picture of him on the left and a picture of him with Teddy Roosevelt on the right. And yes, that is a dead male lion there on the ground. You know, this was a time when lions and wolves and bears, whether we think so today or not, were still considered pretty much detrimental to the existence of mankind. And while Teddy Roosevelt believed in conservation and stuff, he would also didn't have a problem hunting. And he talks about some of that stuff in his book. But lions were still listed as vermin in most of Africa at that time. So if you start calling something vermin, that pretty much means all seasons wide open, so to speak. And it does sound like there were quite a few lions in the country back then. And there's still quite a few, I think. But anyway,
there's way more than people let you think.
Oh yeah, way more. I thoroughly believe that.
But I mean, it only supports so many.
Well, yeah, that's just natural. And there was plenty of food for them to eat back at that time. I mean, lots of zebras, lots of eland, lots of everything. Game was pretty plentiful. They collected several. Again, the lions were, I don't know if they are today, on display at the Smithsonian. Because the Smithsonian, and this is kind of how science was done back then, guys. You know, John James Audubon was famous for all of his bird drawings, but he did those birds after he shot them with a shotgun and then put them up, mounted them, and painted them. I mean, that's how they got birds in hand to look at them, and animals were the same way. And a lot of these animals in Africa were still pretty much unknown in the rest of the world, or at least outside of Africa. And so, scientists wanted these critters to study them, see, they wanted to know about the bone structure, their skeletal systems, their, reproductive organ. I mean, they wanted to know about everything. And this is how they were gathering animals for that.
Well, and I'll try not to get on my soapbox, but the only reason we know anything about any of these things is guys like this. That's it.
Well, that is. I mean, that's how we learn. No, that's a fact. And
it's that's not from the new folks out there.
No. And in 1909 and 1910, and you're at the Smithsonian, these are all new critters. Most people, like I said, most people in North America, South America,
still don't know.
Well, still don't know, but they didn't know. They didn't even know these animals existed in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean,
or they'd heard
they collected like 4,000 species of bird.
Yeah, I think I've got some of those
There wasn't
numbers.
anybody in America that knew about that. They collected 2,000 herps. Reptiles and amphibians.
Yeah, I've got
It
some of
wasn't
those
just
numbers
out
here,
there
I think.
killing Simba.
No, they weren't. I'm just looking through my notes here. Again, a little bit more about the route. It went from Mombasa in British East Africa to the Belgian Congo. Oh, onto the Nile and up to the river out to Khartoum, and that's they went south to north and then went out. And here's some of those numbers. Again, they collected over 11,000 animals, shot, captured, trapped, whatever that they took. And like what I was getting at a minute ago was the Smithsonian and other museums said we would like to have, two male lions, a female lion, a couple of lionesses, and maybe a cub, because we want that to either study or use as a display. They even on a trip with the president of the United States, they said this is what we want you to bring back. So by and large, that's what they did bring back. And most of the stuff that they shot, trapped, brought back went straight to the museum. Now they did have some of their own, but not a lot. Out of the 11,000, Mark was just saying, over 5,000 different kind of mammals, or of various kinds, not all different kinds. They might have 5 of one and 4 of another. 4,000 birds. But Theodore and his son Kermit roughly shot 512 of themselves. So while they some people will say, oh, they killed 11,000 animals, they didn't. There wasn't that many. I mean, they didn't do that many. A lot of them were the naturalists and people that went with them. Let's see. Just a little bit more about Tarleton and Cunningham. They were responsible for, picking out the porters and making sure they had the right people to help take care of the weapons and the horses and the tents and all that stuff. Tarleton was kind of over that group. Tarleton came to the United States in 1910 after this was all over, and he went to Roosevelt's ranch and hung out for a while, and also went with Theodore to see some of the first American national parks. Oh, this is one, Mark, I threw in here. You may know this already too, but and I didn't know this one. In 1925, Saxton Pope went to Africa to try to hunt with the bow and the arrow, which is what he did. And Tarleton guided him out on a trip on a lion hunt. And he did shoot some lions with the bow, but he wanted to try something bigger. And Tarleton said, "You're not going to do. I'm not going to do that with a bow with you, because I'm just not sure you can do that, like a Cape buffalo, for example." Now that's been done, but at that time Tarleton wasn't ready to do that. He didn't know that if he believed what Pope was doing was capable. I don't know. I don't know how many native tribes and correct me or tell me in Africa that actually used a bow at that time. I mean, like Swahilis, they hunted with spears mostly, and got in close with things, including lions. That was their trademark, kind of. But anyway, he was afraid that they might. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Maasai were the lion hunters with spears.
Okay, the Maasai. Excuse me.
Yeah, the all of them use bows though.
Oh, okay.
For some, purposes.
What Tarleton was afraid of was that Pope would wound something, and then
We'd have to collaborate.
He'd get run over or something. And Tarleton also guided there was a trip that not other than this I'm not going to talk about, but later he guided a trip for the Prince of Wales, who later became King Edward the Eighth of Britain, and the Duke of York, who was later George the Fourth. They were both future kings of England. So let's see who else. Then
Mr. Thibodeau's come in the house.
Hi, good morning, Jason. Good to see you, buddy. I mentioned Alexander Mearns. I thought he was kind of an interesting character. He was along on the trip. He was an American surgeon. He was a surgeon in the sense that he was a military doctor. Well, he was a surgeon, but um, I say that because they were a little bit different. But he was an ornithologist and a field naturalist, and like Mark said earlier, he founded the AOU, or the American Ornithological or Ornithologist Union, and he joined the army in 1882. These guys were all, most of them were in the sort of the latter half of their life, and he served in the military for quite some time. In fact, he just retired from the military, I believe, as a lieutenant colonel when this trip with Roosevelt and the Smithsonian. I think he had taken a job with Smithsonian. For example, he was stationed down along the Mexican border at one time, and they just referred to it as the International Boundary Commission. And he reported on the fauna and the trees of the boundary between the United States and Mexico. And he wrote a book about that. I think he's got a book about that and the mammals of that region also. He retired with the rank of lieutenant colonel. And he got invited to go along as a naturalist when they started planning this trip. He went on some other ones too, and went, in fact, just a couple of years later, he went on another trip, dang it, to Africa to do more of this kind of work. Let's see if I have anything else over here in my notes.
Well, he was with Crook, and Bert was the guy I was trying to think of yesterday, that wrote the book On the Border with Crook.
Oh, okay.
When
okay.
they were hunting Geronimo.
Gotcha.
And there's an awful lot of critters in the Southwest that their last scientific name is Mearns eye.
And guess why that is? Yeah, he was
They were named for
no,
him.
they were named for him though. Yeah, I got you. Well, that's what I meant. But
Only Merriam was a guy that named things after himself.
okay.
C. Hart Merriam.
I'm sure I remember that or knew that, but I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, most of the time it's you get something named after you, but you don't do it yourself. It normally happens later. I've known a couple of people actually that have some fish named after them, but they didn't do it. Other people decided that they deserved it. I think Etnauer, you've heard me talk about Etnauer. He was the fish biologist at UT, or the main fish professor, ichthyology. And he's the guy that found the Tennessee snail darter, or the Tennessee River snail darter, and that became famous because of the dams and all that. And I think he's got a couple named after him. And I knew there's another guy that worked at TVA. He's got one named after him. It was fish they actually discovered or figured out were different species or subspecies. So anyway, that's Mearns. Then they had Edmund Heller. He was also born in 1875. He was a zoologist and was president of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums at one point in time. And I've got a weird picture in that I don't know why I put up there. That's not supposed to be there. Oh well, too late now. I don't know if I can take that out or not. Maybe I can, so you can see what's under it. There it went. Look at that. Look at what I did there. So he started working at the Smithsonian in 1909, and lo and behold, this trip came up, and he got either invited or probably invited. I don't think they actually told guys, "Hey, you're going to do this." I'd say most of them were really excited about going. Hang on just 1 minute. So let's see here. Blah blah blah. He worked a lot with John Alden Loring, which I've got a little bit more about here in a second, also. And they collaborated on all the field notes for the expedition. And he co-authored the book Life Histories of African Game Animals along with Theodore Roosevelt. And that illustration at the lower left corner is from that book. And I can't remember, but he may have done that himself. I'm not sure. And the image on the lower right is like the cover of a book that was done about that Heller had done, or a story about him as a scientist and a world traveler and an explorer. This was back still in the age of, they were still learning about things and places, and I'm not sure exactly what year we went to the North Pole or the Arctic, the South Pole, or just explored the Arctic or Antarctic, and Africa was part of that. I mean, they didn't call it the Dark Continent for just because the African American folks or African that lived there. They called it that because once you get off the coast of Africa, most scientists, Europeans, that part of the world didn't know anything about Africa. And let's see here. He actually had been on one field expedition in 1907 for the Smithsonian, or no, the Field Museum had gone on an African expedition. Didn't have any information about that. And after he came back from that, though, he was appointed curator of mammals at the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology, University of California, and participated in the 1908 Alexander Alaska expedition. So this guy got around. Then he went to work for the Smithsonian, and he was chosen as a naturalist for large animals for the Smithsonian Theodore Roosevelt. So he was responsible for taking care of the samples, the specimens that they collected, i.e. the big animals, the rhinos, the lions, the elephant, anything that they collected. He was responsible for, getting it, making sure the skins were prepared. And in the book, in the index, I believe it is on the African game trails, Roosevelt talks about all the supplies they had to take with them for this trip so that they could prepare all these skins and specimens and protect them and make sure they got back to the Smithsonian, because they didn't have refrigeration or anything like that to work with. Let me see. I had something else down here, I thought. Actually, he'd been there quite a few times overall into Africa by this point. He'd been to Peru. He did some stuff for National Geographic Society in China and Yale University, Russia. 26 to 28, he was curator of mammals at the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. That's another really cool museum. I think the Field Museum is the one that either has or had the T-Rex. Susie, was it named? What they call that T-Rex, Mark? They found it out near you. The one that was so complete. Wasn't that in Wyoming, or was that Dakota? One of the Dakotas.
It was in South Dakota, I think.
South Dakota. Okay.
Sioux. Yeah.
Sioux. Yeah, Sioux. I think that's at the Field Museum, or it was. I don't know if it still is or not.
In Chicago?
I think so.
Well, that's where What's Bucket's lines are at, the Ghost in the Darkness.
Oh, the Salvo line?
Patterson's lines. Yeah, the Salvo lines.
I've got more in here than I really want to talk about. It has nothing to do with this trip. So, he has a rattlesnake named after him. I didn't know that. Crotalus helleri, Southern Pacific rattlesnake. There's a Heller's coral snake also. A skink. Redneck keelback is a helleri. So this guy was kind of busy in his life. And this is the other guy I just mentioned that was working along with him, Loring. He was another mammologist and field naturalist who also worked for the Bureau of Biological Survey in the United States Department of Agriculture. Bronx Zoo, the Smithsonian Institution, and some other stuff, and was involved in a lot of other expeditions. And the two images in the center and left of that page are from programs and notes that he did on like a lecture tour, um, or in classes at universities that he was also teaching at or working at, or was invited in as a lecturer. And that's some of the stuff that was left from his day. But that's a photo of him in the corner.
And the Bureau of Biological Survey is the predecessor to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Right. I should, yeah, that's very true. Thank you.
When they switched over to Department of Interior.
So the next picture is the guy whose name I keep saying wrong. Frederick Courtney Slough.
Slough.
Slough. Damn it. Why do I keep saying low?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's a Corey Bustard he's got hanging there by.
That's a Corey Bustard. It sure is.
That is one big old bird. The largest flying bird by weight in the world.
If you look, there's actually two there. There's one hanging and one laying on the ground.
If anybody's ever heard of Alan Quartermain,
It was about him.
From like King Solomon's Mines.
Yeah.
Who wrote Rider Haggard wrote those books.
You know, and I thought I had that written down here in my notes, but now I don't see it.
And
Sir, no, I do have it in there.
Sir Henry Rider Haggard.
Yes.
And the Alan Quartermain books and movies. And this guy is the guy.
This is the guy that was modeled after, indeed.
Yep. He was quite the world traveler and spent a lot of time in Africa. Got in many misadventures.
I was trying to say, I think those are either both doubles or single
Make
shot
you late for
rifles.
supper.
Do what? Make you late for supper?
Misadventures, they make you late for
Yeah,
supper.
they will. That's right. So that's him. And he, if you're at all interested, I suggest, I highly recommend you look some of these guys up, but because there are a lot of stories in the books that were written by them and about them, or if you're an outdoors person or if you're very, very interested in that sort of thing, these guys wrote there's some really good books out there. These guys and many others that we've talked about over the years, but these guys, there was a lot of stories like the Alan Quartermain stuff was fictional, but it was about this guy. But this guy lived a lot of the same kind of adventure.
Alan Quartermain General Hospital.
Is there such a thing as that?
I never heard that.
I haven't either. John, tell us, is that true, or are you just pulling our leg, as we say back here around here? You're just pulling my leg. Alan Quartermain General Hospital. I gotta look. You know what to look that up. That is true.
Why?
Really?
Why?
Because I gotta know. Because you can't just throw something like that out there on the ground and not pick it up. You can't do that. I think it's against the law.
It's like throwing the gauntlet.
And then you got to pick it up or walk
Great,
away.
Great, John. Now we're going to have to do a whole daggone show about that.
Yeah.
The Alan Quartermain General Hospital.
Well, there was actually a doctor named Dr. Alan Quartermain.
It's an alias.
Oh, well.
His real name's like Fred Jones. Uh,
Oh, I'm not going to go any deeper than that. I'm going to walk away.
no, you're not.
I
So
am. For now,
you're
I am.
looking right now.
I was. I'm not now. I promise I'm not now. I shut it down. So we'll talk a little bit about the results of the trip. I think I've already mentioned some of this, but they killed, trapped, or brought back over 11,000 different animal species. Um, Again, we've already mentioned this too: 4,000 birds, at least 2,000 reptiles and amphibians, 500 fish, and at least 4,897 different mammals of various species. That they were trying to collect everything from Africa that they could possibly get their hands on. They also had snails and mollusks and freshwater shells of the ocean or the rivers, crabs, beetles. They collected bugs too, um, all that kind of stuff. And all together, they think they had over 23,000 specimens that they took back. And they also and I didn't put this because it had nothing to do with hunting or fishing. They also collected ethnographic stuff. So they took back all kinds of cultural items that they took back with this as part of the trove they sent back to the Smithsonian. It also had to get. So it took them over 8 years to put all this stuff together and get it cataloged in the museum. And some of it was probably in a very special place, like on Raiders of the Lost Ark in a warehouse somewhere. I didn't mention this. I started to, and I didn't mention it. But there's when you read something like this or you see something like this, and I think this is probably has something to do with movies and that sort of stuff. The term "the Great White Hunter" and where that actually came from. And I put a little thing in here that I think Peter Capstick wrote about it. And he said the White Hunter, he was a white hunter, so to speak. And he wrote a lot of books. I'm reading one of his books right now about man eaters again. He said the term wasn't really employed or embraced by the hunters themselves. They really didn't look at it that way or like it being put aside like that. Its meanings, like many labels from the colonial era, is now shaded with parody or derision. It came to symbolize the perceived arrogance of Western colonial powers toward the less developed parts of the world that they controlled before the dismemberment of their empires after World War II. And that's from Capstick, because those guys often got depicted or called Great White Hunters or White Hunters, and most of them didn't really want that. They didn't feel that way. A lot of these guys, like Selous and Cunningham, they had European backgrounds, but a lot of them lived and stayed in Africa or spent most of their lives in these places, and they most of them, I think, felt like they were part of the country more than just a great white hunter. Like Corbett. I mean, Corbett was of British descent, British in India, but he spent his whole life in India and then in Kenya. I think he died in Kenya, actually, because he left India. But they were, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Embedded in the culture. I mean, they didn't try to stand out. They tried to fit in and just be part of everything and learn. And at least that's my impression. Let's see what else I've got here.
So John, you're talking about this Allen Quartermain General Hospital. I thought it was a hospital, but it's the soap.
Oh, it's from the soap opera General Hospital. Okay, John. Got me there, buddy. Oh, this guy's probably where they got his name, correct? I'm sure. John said, what's he saying here? When I was a mailman, had an elderly woman on the route, I checked on every day. She watched it. He'd sit with her for a few minutes and watch it while he's on his mail route. Good for you, John. I can remember a lot of people used to talk about General Hospital. I can't say that I was ever a watcher, but a viewer.
The women folks in my family never missed their stories, they called them.
That's what my mom either. My mom loved her stories.
Why don't you go play in the woods, boy?
While I watch my stories.
While I watch my stories.
Or you better be quiet back there and don't interrupt me during my story.
Don't be cutting your arm off or anything.
Don't cut your arm off anything. Like no bleeding while my stories are on. Oh me.
Oh God Almighty.
I started to put in, but I knew everybody wouldn't be that interested. I started to put in the Roosevelt had a thing about, well, he liked rifles and guns. I mean, he was a hunter, and from early in his life, when he went out west to kind of as a young man that sort of healed him and refreshed from all his ailments. He was kind of a sickly young guy when he was, until he was in his teens or 20s. And he went out west and sort of it rejuvenated him. And there's pictures of him out there, but he was in his hunting garb and as a rancher. I mean, he owned a ranch in the Dakotas for a long time.
It's a national park now.
Yeah, yeah. But he was real proud of American rifles and stuff. He there's lots and lots of pictures of him with his Winchester rifles. He was real proud of Winchester, and he didn't always use a Winchester in Africa. He took a couple of double rifles. And I don't know if I put pictures of those in here, but the double rifles that he carried down there were made just for him. I remember in VCR's first event, and women all over the world would video. Yeah, they would. You're absolutely right.
Oh my gosh.
That's what people did. I knew people that did that at work.
Now blend these two storylines together.
No, I'm not even.
The only connections, Alan Quartermain. And Salute.
And Salute, yep. Oh, me.
What's that game with Kevin Bacon?
6. Are you serious?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what this is turning into.
The 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, that deal.
Yeah, that's it. We're getting there. So now so we're going to keep going until somebody says, well, that's my cousin. That's trying to see what else I had now. Anyway, Roosevelt talks a lot about this in his book. He took 2 rifles. He took more than one of each because he had a backup. But he took a Springfield 1903, which was becoming the new Army rifle, and he was actually testing bullets that they were going to be using in that rifle that turned into the 30-06. Eventually, one he had over there, I think, was the 30, what they call, some people call it 30-03, but I think from reading that he was actually he had the new 06 bullet is what he was using, because he talked about experimenting with it and taking notes about how well it worked or the distances or whatnot. And then he had a 405 Winchester, which was a lever action gun and at that time was one of the most powerful lever action you could buy back then. And that was his lion gun. He called that Big Medicine. He named his rifles. Some people do that, kind of like we name our motorcycles and our boats and our That's all kinds of things. I was looking to see if I took any more notes about that particular stuff. I put some stuff in here about other people, like I can't remember his real name, Mark. I know you'll tell me, but Karamoja Bell, and I'm saying that wrong. I know
No, it's Karamojo.
Karamoja Bell. What was his real name? That's not his real name, though.
He has a name about
That long? Okay, well,
he's
never
not
mind.
big enough. His name's about this long. He was I
He
think,
was famous for elephant
Scotsman
hunting.
originally.
He was what?
I think he was Scottish.
Yeah, he might have been. Well, so was Cunningham. Kay said that during the summer, my mom would be up at the crack of dawn to get her chores done, and us kids fed so she could watch her stories. You know what? Might have been what my mom was up to all them years. I'm telling you something. My mom did not miss it, and I can, for the longest time in my life, I could tell you the song, the music of what was coming on in the other room of the house, like the Edge of Night and I don't know, the dawn before the sun. I mean, there was all kinds of names like that. I make that one up. The Edge of Night was real though.
So, so Bell was an interesting character. Here's one of those 6 degrees separation. He was a fighter pilot, by the way.
Yes, he was. I've read it. Yes, he was. That's right.
And his name, and I got to flip to a screen here. Because I got to read it.
Okay.
Karamojo Bell's name was Walter Dalrymple Maitland Bell.
Ah, okay. He ended
And
he ended up in Africa as a fighter
hunted
pilot.
in Uganda mostly. What's that?
Didn't he get? I think he got sent to Africa at one point with the army as a pilot, if I'm not mistaken. That I don't know if that's how he got there to begin with. Maybe he had already been there, but I think he was down there as one of the first fighter pilots in Africa.
He saw service in South Africa during the Boer War, and he flew in the Royal Flying Corps in East Africa, Greece, and France during the First World War.
Yeah, and he was one of the first pilots that was
So
ever
he
in
was
that
flying
part
a
of the world.
biplane.
Yeah, he sure was.
Anyway,
I was
back
reading
to,
a bit
back to
more.
your airplanes.
No, I ain't gonna go to airplanes. I'm done. But I know I read that about him that was one of the things he did when he got sent to those places. But he was supposed to be one of the first pilots, military at least pilots in Africa. Maybe the first airplanes, for all I know, because that was still a new thing back then. I'm quite sure that if you can you imagine it's 1915, let's say, and you're a Maasai warrior or a herdsman out on the plains of Africa, and you see an airplane fly over. Now, would you believe that, or would you think some god from above had come down to wreak havoc upon you, especially if they started dropping bombs on you? I mean, they didn't know what. I mean, that stuff like that hadn't been seen in this part of the country, much less in Africa. I had some more notes about some of the stuff they did. Some of the stuff Roosevelt talked about, like the Ugandan Railway, which I believe was the railroad that the Savo Lines interrupted, wasn't it?
I think
Pretty sure.
but
Huh? You don't, or you do?
I think it was.
I think it was the Ugandan was something they were doing. So I threw some pictures in here, and that picture is an original, and that's one of the guys that was working in one of the shops in the Smithsonian. Now, not all those animals are African. That white fox looking critter is not African, but the lions are, and some of the antelope are. And I don't know what else is in there, but all kinds of stuff.
Spring hare. That's
Yeah.
African. There's a topi or a something
Yeah,
there.
I had to look up topi when I was reading the book. I had to look up topies because I couldn't think of what that was. I mean, it's just another. Did you?
It's like a hartebeest. It's like a
got that face kind of like a hartebeest.
yeah. There's hartebeest and topis and there's
Cope or
another one.
copy? Not a copy. It's a
There's,
topi.
Gosh darn it. There's I'm not going to think of it. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the whole world had never seen these creatures.
No,
I mean, Africa had seen them, but even parts of
Yeah.
Africa didn't know that this stuff existed. And conservation always starts with knowledge, and
absolutely.
and the formulation of a plan that cares that they exist. I try to think about all the critters that just went gone that nobody cared about because they didn't know they were even there.
Which is one of the things that some people today, and maybe always, but struggle with trying to think about, say, Teddy Roosevelt, why he went to Africa and shot animals and hunted and did all this stuff, or out west, and yet he's considered a great conservationist because he did, and he cared about this stuff because of all that knowledge and the.
Well, the whole term has been co-opted.
True.
Conservation always implied some level of use,
Right? Not
preservation.
Yeah.
And so that's the soapbox I was trying real hard not to
get on. Well, that's a topic.
That's not a topic.
Okay.
I'll just get mad.
Well, it's a topic that we talked about much even in school when I was going through. But yeah, I know the terms have been commingled to a point where they've lost some of their meaning. This is some of the pictures. I don't know what kind of critter that one is. Which one of the?
It's a big old beautiful water buck.
Water buck, okay. And that's signed by RJ. No, he sent that to RJ Cunningham. And I'm pretty sure that was a Kermit Roosevelt.
Look at that. Look at that fine looking pony that's all slicked out.
That I think that was, and I believe he had a name for that pony. He talks about it a lot in his book because he liked it because it was.
I bet it stepped out.
Well, it did, but it was also he could.
Short.
It wasn't crazy, stepping out wild. It was controllable, but it would do what he needed it to do. And they hunted a lot on the horses. I mean, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that's.
Well, some friends of mine went to the Slough. There's a big park I think it's in Tanganyika now, which would have been part of British East Africa then. That they went on a 3-week long horseback photo safari.
And, really? A horseback photo?
Yeah, and the whole, they had tent camp set up, kind of like in the olden days, and all that kind of stuff for them. And spent way too much money, but had a wonderful time. And lions hunt horses actively, and they had some interesting adventures involving lions and horses. And
well, I'm thinking the lion probably looks at a horse as well.
Big old chunk of meat.
Well, just a zebra that don't have stripes, I'm thinking, and zebras are natural food, so any other horse would be too, I'm quite sure. And that's something they did have to protect. I mean, that's one of the reasons they had the Ascari was to guard their horses and stuff at night.
Right.
That was a big part of why they did that. again, I had notes on this. That photo at the top is Kermit and Theodore with a hippopotamus, and I don't think that's the one he wanted for Christmas. Just saying. Pretty sure that's Kermit anyway. And that's Teddy in a typical pose. That's his double rifle, which is made special for him by Holland Hall. And that double rifle now is in a museum in Louisville, Kentucky.
Really?
Yeah, there's a museum there. When you start digging into stuff like this, you realize that there are museums for certain people in different parts of the country. And I don't know I can't remember how the Louisville thing.
What was his tie to Louisville, Kentucky?
Well, I don't know that there was one, except a patron of the museum there, ended up with that rifle at some auction. I'm sure he paid some astronomical price for it. And then that rifle was handed down in the Roosevelt family. That I think there was actually two of them, and they were handed down at some point, and I don't know how this would have happened, but they were damaged and maybe in shipping. I mean, they may have come home broke for all I know. But they had them restored, and that's what's now in the museum there in Louisville. One of them is. It's got a tag. I think seems like it's got a little escutcheon plate with, Theodore Roosevelt made for and that kind of stuff on. It's, of course, a beautiful piece of kit handiwork.
Well, that is one of his great grandsons. I think great grandson. Let me think about this. Yeah, it would be great grandson. They did a movie called In the Blood, and it was about his first hunting trip with his father, who had been one of the very first Navy SEALs.
Yeah, you've told me about this. I've never seen that.
Spent a lot of tours in Vietnam. Anyway, they went and did a hunt where in one of the countries that Teddy hunted in, and he actually harvested a Cape buffalo with that rifle, big double rifle. And the first time he shot, they showed the whole deal, like the camp and hanging out at camp and hanging out with all the folks that were helping him out and all the native peoples. And one of the scenes, he's shooting that rifle for the first time. And he pulls the trigger and it just like throws him backwards quite a little.
I can't remember what that is. It's
lands flat of his back and just
it's like a 470.
No, it was like 13, 14-year-old boy pulling he might have touched them both off at one time.
Oh, well, that would hurt.
Well, my buddy that was shooting a Holland in South Africa.
Yeah.
I watched him shoot it 10 times in a row the first night we were there. And
he had to qualify with it, basically.
He had to qualify with it before he could hunt with it. And he shot 10 rounds and he goes, I don't have an 11th in me, dude. He had the most godforsaken bruise on his right shoulder you ever saw. And the day he shot his buffalo, he could have shot that thing off the bridge of his nose and he wouldn't have felt a thing.
Well, true. You don't remember what caliber that was, do you?
It was 454 or 450 something. It was big.
Like
the cartridges were about that long.
Yeah, they look like cigars. They're pretty large. All those express rifles and double rifles are usually that big. And that, the lever actions that Roosevelt took were of the 405 Winchester, which isn't produced anymore. Well, it is produced again because a few years ago, the Winchester Rifle Company, as it exists today, which I think is a Japanese company, came out with the Teddy Roosevelt commemorative 1895 lever action rifle in the 405 Winchester. So they started remaking it. And it's it's almost as big as that. I mean, it looks like a cigar. And like I said, at the time, it was the most powerful thing you could get in a lever action rifle. And I was going somewhere else with that. Now I forgot what I was going to say, but it was almost as big as the double rifles they were carrying, but they didn't have the stopping power, if you will, that the big Nitro Expresses had. I've looked these. Hang on a minute, I got a gong going off again. I've looked all these up and seen pictures of them as I've gone over them because some of them I've never seen before, and seriously, they look like brass cigars or something. They're huge. But they did what they needed to do. I mean, that's what they did, what they were made for. So these are a couple more pictures that were in the Smithsonian stuff and in the book. And that book at the bottom is another book that was co-written by Teddy Theodore Roosevelt, along with some of the folks I get at the Smithsonian. And it's all about the trip. It's yet another book I need to pick up. Is my wife in here? She probably don't know I said that. And this is a copy of the book that one of the reasons I'm talking about this now, but I read this book. Actually, I haven't quite finished it. And I wish I had a hard copy. What?
Stop.
Stop.
Kay said if the president came on the TV when the stories were on, her mother was very upset.
Oh yeah, nobody interrupted.
Nobody interrupted the stories.
Mm-mm. So anyway, that's a copy that I think that's the first edition of the African Game Trails, and I swear I didn't think I had a first edition, but shut up, phone, wherever you are. I thought I had a hard copy of that book, but I'm not sure I do. I think I bid on one, but didn't get it. I think that's one of the books I did not win at the last auction, but that guy had a copy of it, and I think he did have a first edition. That's where the Kermit book came from that I have right here. I do have a copy of this autographed edition. But so I'm looking for one of these. I got to find me one of these, a hard copy. I've got a digital version of it that's right here in this little folder, but it doesn't have all the photos in it that the hard copy of the book has. And this photograph, the ending photo here, is Theodore Roosevelt sitting beside Frederick
Salute.
On board. I got to looking at this photograph. Pretty sure this is on board ship.
Looks like he's got on one of them little cricket caps.
Yeah, I'm thinking that does not look like Frederick Salute of Africa, because I've never seen a photo of him dressed in anything except
African
outdoor
garb.
clothing.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
he could clean up.
He could clean up. Theodore could probably clean up nice too when he wanted to. So, I mean, he wasn't always dressed up. Or not dressed up, I should say. Okay, I got to hit the right button. There I go. So I did that different today. I usually have what you and I see on this screen. And over here, I usually just have the YouTube screen so I can kind of see what's going on over there. But today I didn't do that. I just used my PowerPoint screen and with the notes in it, and I didn't lose them as bad this time. I just didn't have them all put in there. I thought I had some more information on a couple of those things. I didn't. So I probably got lost in reading about it and forgot to put it in there. That's the problem with this kind of stuff. I tend to run down that rabbit hole because it's a big one.
Before you know it, you're looking up Alan Quartermain on General Hospital.
That's exactly right.
The deep pit that is Wikipedia. Oh, look, that's highlighted. I can click on that. Oh, look, and before you know it, you don't know what you're searching for.
No, yeah, that's right. You you plumb twisted it around back around to something else, and
Plus,
uh,
anybody can get in there and change anything, and it.
well, it can, but I like to think they're trying to do as good a job as they can to keep you straight.
I give them money all the time.
Yeah, me too. I did find some
I
stuff.
spend a lot of time on there,
I tell you, if
which means I'm older, I think.
probably maybe might be a sign. I pulled up some stuff that popped up at some that was some available stuff from the Smithsonian archives, and I'm pretty sure that that's available free. I just have to figure out. I would love to get in there and look at some of that, the photos and everything they've got from that trip that aren't in the book and stuff, because you know that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of photos and things that never made it into a book anywhere
Right.
that they've got on file from this trip and others, and that would be fascinating. And
I'm
stuff that
I'm
wasn't.
scared of the Smithsonian and the Museum of Natural History and all that. But I'd get there and like you'd find my dried out carcass like a month later.
Yeah, I've got a real problem. I want to go. That's one of the few reasons that I would like to go to Washington is to see that. But I don't. But see, I've got a problem. I want to see all that, and I'm like you. I'd probably end up dead in there somewhere. But I'd also like to see the aviation part because I'm fascinated with that too. And that's a whole nother. That's I need a whole nother me to do all that and probably see everything I want to see.
And the earth could not stand two of you, my brother.
Come on now, give me a break. Cut me a little slack. But then I
I,
could cover a lot more ground.
I could, but maybe the earth.
Okay. I could cover so much more ground that way. Oh, mercy. Speaking of
Oh,
collecting animals, I'm going to say this, and pardon me, but we have been on a major trapping campaign, not actually trapping, for mice this past week in the house, in the garage. And the cats have been too. The cats have caught a couple that actually got inside. Most of them have been out in the garage, and they're coming in. They're all from outside and all over, I'm quite sure. But I think, and I was telling we were counting heads last night. I believe in the last 5 days that I have captured or released somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 mice just in the garage. And I'm pretty sure it's because they found the stash of bird seed that wasn't in the proper container that they couldn't
yeah,
get in.
you had a grain bin that they were getting in, didn't you?
Pretty sure that's what was going on. So let me tell you what my
Well,
cruel
we
wife.
have the bird feed thing out in the barn,
Oh, I bet. Well, yeah.
but then I'm constantly battling the striped-tailed one, Centiglusca,
Oh, yeah.
and his little minions, the mice. I have big metal storage bins I put all the feed in, and a borcoon can.
Figure out some stuff.
They're closely related to black bears and grizzly bears because
Pretty sure they
figure
are.
stuff
Yeah.
out. I have big
Well,
old rocks stacked on lids and things just to keep them at bay, but I'll go out every now and again and daggone it, they got the lid off or whatever,
they've been flipping rocks on you.
and then they have their way with a bunch of oiled sunflower seeds and bird seed.
Yeah, we had a bucket. It's like a square that I think originally it had cat litter or something in it. We've had it for we emptied some of those out years ago, and I said I can't throw those in the trash. And I use them for paint, everything, paint buckets, trash cans. So I went out in the garage the other day, and there's this can, and as I entered the garage and turned the light on, I
The
hear
mice
something.
came popping out.
Well, they were just pop. They couldn't quite get out. They were just jumping up in the air like you know what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just reading Kay's. If she went to the Cairo Museum, I'd be right there with you, Kay.
Oh, near the Tut exhibit.
Always been one of those things I'd love to see.
Did you, Kay? Did you get to see the Tutankhamun this
When he came to
exposition
America,
where it went around the country? Did you go see that?
no, I wish I had.
Yeah, me too. I think we talked about it one time, but we didn't do it. I wish we had. So anyway, this bucket, I'm looking in there and there's like 3 mice in there. And then one day I look in there and there's 5. And Brenda said, "Did you notice what I did?" She had put that bucket, and there's nothing in that bucket. That's why I can't figure out why they're getting in it. She had put, she had the weed eater laying there across some boxes, and
She
she
was
set that
trapping.
she set that bucket under the end of that, and they were diving right off into that bucket, and then they couldn't get out. I turned them. I went out. I couldn't bear just to crush all their little heads. So I took them out one day and just turned them loose out here. Mice went in every direction you can imagine out in the yard. They went headed for the woods. I'm sure they probably one came out here. I mean, they just went everywhere.
They'll be chewing on your books, and you'll be not so kindly feeling about them then.
Well, when that happens, there'll be hell to pay. I'll just tell you that right
We had a whole box of photos downstairs they got into, and
Ooh,
some of
that,
those photos were older than me and you combined, and they chewed them up. And
oh no, I hate that.
I declare I like having. When we first moved into this place, we had chipmunks everywhere, just hundreds of them. And I haven't seen one in a long time. I don't know if they had a disease go through them or what.
Mm.
Just don't see them like I used to. Maybe it's because of the dogs. I don't know. But the people that had this place before us had dogs too. But anyway, the deer mice are just
Taking over.
well. I mean, they're not taking over, but they're abundant, and which is why we have horned owls, which I love to see. So their pellets are full of deer mice parts for the most part, and
I think I've mentioned this before. Every once in a while, I see this big yellow, long-haired tabby cat that's wandering the edge of the woods.
yeah,
And you know how I feel about feral cats. I'm not too keen on them, but
he's probably helping you out a bit.
well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I've gone down to the house at night after leave here and walk down to the house, and he'd come running out of the garage. I'd let the garage door open, so he was in there. I know why now, and or it was in there. I don't know if it's male or female. And yesterday, Brenda said, "Did you put those mice out there in that little pile in the garage?" And I said, "No," because I did put some, God rest their souls, out here on a place to see if the birds would pick them up. I was kind of hoping the crows might come get them or something. And I said, "No, I didn't leave them in the garage. I would have, tossed them out." She said, "Well, they're dead." Because I thought she was talking about in that can again, that bucket. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, there's like a little pile of 3 dead mice right there in the garage, just outside the door." And I got thinking about it. I said, "You don't reckon that damn cat's leaving us?" Because I do that, Maybe it's leaving those there for us because it's coming in the garage and killed them, and it's just stacking them up there by the door. I don't know. I mean, it's the strangest thing. I don't know. I don't know any other excuse for it. There's nothing. We don't poison stuff, so I know they're not. It's not anything. I hadn't put out anything, and that cat's the only other reason I could think of they would be dead, short of being trapped in a bucket or mummified back at the Tut exhibit, as Kay said. Squirrels destroyed a ton of stuff in their garage. They chewed the legs off my grandmother's dining table. Oh, that's terrible, Kay. And I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. That's bad. Well, squirrels can be dealt with. Sounds like you need to hire a squirrel hunter to come over and fix that problem. Pretty sure we've got some in the roof of our house.
We've got like some in the Rolodex.
You mean squirrel hunters?
Squirrel hunters.
I know we've talked about this before, but you know what you and I ought to do one winter? We need to get us a couple of good pellet guns, high powered, and go to Florida and shoot iguanas out of people's yards. I think that'd be so much fun. Not to be cruel to iguanas, but that'd be just as good as rat killing in the dump. Maybe more, because they hire people to do that down there now. Those iguanas are just everywhere. And of course they're exotics. They don't
I guess they eat pretty good too.
Some people say they do.
Chicken in
I've
the
never tried
trees.
one. Chicken in the trees, yeah. They probably are pretty good. And they're vegetarian, so I think they're all vegetarian. Those are. So they're probably eating, I don't know if they eat fruit off the trees or not. That if they were eating fruit off the trees, then farmers they'd probably be taking care of them quicker. But anyway, that was I just think that'd be a hoot to go down there and hunt iguanas. I think that'd just be a blast. Sorry, I'm not wanting to, I don't have that kind of bloodlust, but I think I'd enjoy that. I kind of like the idea of taking care of something that's not supposed to be there. Even if it was in the Florida Everglades, picking up great big giant snakes.
Man.
Except I can't do that anymore. So, but boy, wouldn't that have been fun when we was about 25?
Oh my goodness!
Can you just imagine? I had a professor at UT that I did a project with in Florida, and he was herpetologist. What? We feed squirrels and birds.
Caning that dog.
Danny's eating up your bait.
So my dogs will go out and feed with the birds when I put old sunflower seeds out.
Oh, they eat sunflower seeds?
Oh, heck yeah.
I've never seen I never know the dog do that. I don't doubt it, but I just had
dogs that eat anything that won't eat them first. I'm convinced.
Well, that's possible. Anyway, this guy had a student that was
We must have a
visitor
coaching or something.
This guy's name was Sandy. I can't remember his last name. Really liked him. Really nice guy. And he had a postdoc student that was actually working he was from Colombia or Venezuela. This was in the late 90s. And he was, I think maybe he was in Florida hunting. He was somewhere that were swampy. He might not have been here. He might have still been in South America, going to South America. But he was hunting anacondas. And the way they do that was he would walk through the swamp areas barefoot because he could feel them with his feet, which I thought that's kind of silly because they might bite your foot. So I don't know if you ever did you any of that. That was this professor I had a anyway, that was one way that some guys get out and find them in the swamp. I don't really want to do it that way, but I could probably find some of these pythons in the Everglades like that. I haven't looked into that lately. I don't know what the status of that is. I'm sure it'll never change. They'll never get rid of all of them, but I'd sure like to think they're making a dent in them down there anyway. Yeah, I looked one in my shed for a few days. It tried to chew its way out. Well, they can make a big mess. So we think Brenda is always telling me that we've got some in the house, in the ceiling of the house, and I'm pretty sure we do. And I'm pretty sure they're probably, I'm wondering if they might be flying squirrels. Flying squirrels are known to do that, and I haven't gotten up in there to look to see. I'm going to have to figure out a way to get up in there and look.
It'd be a big old Norway rat.
Oh, don't even say that.
Dude, I'm
So,
taking off.
well, let me tell you this real quick story. So the other night, I'm sitting watching the Olympics. It's late. Brenda's gone to bed. It's probably midnight. Suddenly, I hear a scream from the bedroom. It says, "Get Tim, get in here." Chloe had caught a mouse. And because she's a good little cat, she brought it right to Brenda and dropped it right in her lap in the bed. That man, I spent the rest of the night trying to catch it and get rid of it. And them two cats kept me up most of the night because they were on the hunt after that. There was one here, they caught it, they wanted more. Anyway, all right, buddy. You take care.
I got stuff to do.
All right. Well, you go do stuff.
Well, I got folks I need to talk to.
Yep, sounds like it. All right. Well, you take care. Thanks for dropping by.
Good to see everybody. Later.
All right, guys. We're gonna lock this thing down. And thanks for being here. Hope some part of that was interesting. If you have questions, please let me know. No rats. That's right. No rats, Brenda. No rats. Squirrels I can deal with. Flying squirrels, I'd really, even though they're a nuisance, I'd still like it. But anyway, thanks for coming by, guys. I really love y'all for being here. I appreciate it very much. Hope to see you again real soon. Be here next week, as far as I know. I don't have a topic yet. I'll come up with something between now and then. Anubis caught a mouse. He proceeded to toss it in the air toward me. Not fun. Yeah, they do that too, don't they? But this one got right up in Brenda's lap. She was probably quite proud of it and wanted to show Mama he caught her a mouse. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. John, be safe up there in the snow, buddy, and keep us posted how it's going. Yeah, I want to see some. Send me some storm pics, and I'll show them next week in the show. That I'd be I'd love to see some. I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know what the temperatures are, but do you guys get enough wave action when it's cold over that freezes and makes all those really cool looking formations along the beach? I've seen. I mean, that's amazes me in places where that happens. Anyway, guys, love y'all. Thanks for being here. See you next week. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.